Blog Talk Radio.
Archangels, ghosts, and Bigfoot, oh my. It's just another night for Supernatural Girls. Real stories, real answers to life's biggest supernatural mysteries. And now for another exciting interview with paranormal experts from this world and others. Here's your host, paranormal researcher Patricia Baker, on the one, the only Supernatural Girls.
Welcome, everyone, to another exciting episode of Supernatural Girls Radio. I'm your host, Patricia Baker, and I'm here with my co-host, Patricia Kirkman, PK. How are you doing in Tucson tonight?
I'm doing just fine. We've had a dry spell. The yard is drying out a little bit, but things are growing, and it's nice to see for a change.
Very good.
Even the cactus are starting to stand up straight. Poor little things.
Oh. Well, we've got a great show tonight.
Yes,
Jeff
we do.
Harman. Oh, my goodness. And we are going to find out what's coming up. I'm almost afraid to ask, but we need to hear it so we can get prepared.
That's
so,
for sure. And at least we know we get the straight scoop if it's Jeff.
That's for sure. We do, always, with Jeff. So before we introduce Jeff to our audience, tell us what you have for us tonight. You have something special.
Well, yes. I had an email from one of our listeners, and they wanted to know about how to tell who they are by their name or how they can tell when they meet somebody. And I thought, well, the first letter of our name says so much about us. And I thought, well, I'll take a look at it for her. And her name is Amy, and so I thought, well, this is easy enough. So looking at the name Amy, it showed that she's very much an individual, independent, creative, very progressive, and wanting to lead. A is a one number, and so A, J, and S's are very independent souls. They can be a little stubborn, and I hope she doesn't mind me saying that on the air, but she is stubborn, no question about it. But it gives her opportunity to use her creativeness and a lot of activities. Very strong-willed, but very determined. And the best part about it is it gives her courage to be very original. So if you meet anybody that first letter of their name is an A, J, or an S, you know that they're going to be very much in control of what's taking place. They tend to be stubborn, but they're very good at what they do. And it just dawned on me, our guest tonight is Jeff. So there's that independent soul right there. So we get to hear it firsthand, folks.
That's perfect.
Yeah, but it's really amazing what you can tell just by meeting someone, by hearing their first name. If you just pay attention to the first letter, it'll give you all kinds of clues. So if you want to know about your first letter of your name, jot me a note. I'll be happy to answer it on the next show.
That's perfect. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, we've got
all
so
the
much
things that we could talk about on hand, because I'm going to let Jeff take care of all that good stuff, because I know it's not going to be fun.
All the predictions. And, I mean, gosh, we're in quite a mess right now. And I have to say, you know, before this hit, last year we were talking about all of this coming about because of Jeff and other people that were warning us, and we were trying to warn our audience. We really did. And we tried to spell it out. Unfortunately, we were highly criticized for talking politics, is how some people saw it, but we were really trying to talk about the energies that are coming in with the choices that were made. So, anyways, I know Jeff's going to really elaborate on all of this for our audience, and these are the things we need to know, because these are tough times, these are tumultuous times.
We need to be prepared. We need to be prepared.
Look at what's happening in Afghanistan, those poor people that are probably going to be left behind. And what a terrible situation for all of us. That's on all of our minds, and it's very, very difficult to come to terms with that. So, anyways, let's talk about Jeff. So Jeff Harman is a second-generation astrologer with 45 years of experience. He is a master of classical, Vedic, and Kabbalistic astrology. He also draws from many other traditions of spiritual knowledge for clearing people and property of unwanted energies. And he is a consultant for paranormal investigations. Now, Jeff also specializes in electional astrology, the art of selecting auspicious times to sign contracts, release product, travel, schedule weddings, surgery, and other important events. Now, he's also worked in many aspects of the entertainment industry, based in Los Angeles, California, and he is available worldwide by phone and internet conferencing. So if you want your own private reading, then you can get one. So, Jeff, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me back.
Oh, we're excited to have you, Jeff.
Yeah, we need your insights.
For sure.
Well, I can tell you what the charts say, and that's an interesting look, to say the least. I don't think we need astrology to tell us we're certainly in some very unusual times, and have been for the last over a year now, year and a half. So, the interesting thing is you could have set your watch to the Saturn-Pluto conjunction that happened when COVID broke loose. I've been talking about that for years. Everyone would say, Jeff, what do you think of the Mayan calendar? And I said, not a single thing. Can't come up with anything. I don't think they're going to land on the lighthouse lawn, and I don't think they're going to, be anything else going on other than the Saturn-Pluto conjunction is going to, as it always does, bring major changes in the world. The 9/11 happened on the opposition of Saturn and Pluto, and the banks crashed on the square, and we had the Saturn-Pluto conjunction. It usually brings in some sort of fascism. A lot of people have different opinions on COVID-19. Some call it a pandemic, some call it a plandemic, and some call it other things. But whatever it really ultimately ends up being in the books of history, it certainly has wreaked havoc on the world. And then we had the Saturn-Pluto conjunction, which came in right at the winter solstice of 2020, which, then we had the whole political upset and dispute. And here we are in a whole nother series of energies. And I think the one that shows up the most is the United States chart, the birth chart of the United States. And that's often believed to be when the signing of the Declaration of Independence was actually executed or commenced. And there's a man who was a Mason. His name was Ebenezer Sibley. He was believed to be the one who recorded when the bells started ringing in the churches in Philadelphia. And he recorded that time at approximately 5:10 p.m. on July 4, 1776. So, and what I'm about to say wouldn't matter if it was at 5:10 or 8:10, because the United States is currently in a series of aspects known as the Neptune square Mars, Neptune opposition Neptune, and you both probably know what that might mean, huh?
Yeah.
It's
not good.
Confusion, delusion, or a bad version of the Twilight Zone. Neptune Mars squares typically bring subterfuge, trickery, very sleight of hand type things, out-and-out coercion. And I think that might fit where we're at right now. And the Neptune opposition, it definitely does. And the Neptune opposition, Neptune is total delusion and confusion. So we have three of those aspects. The first one started, and they're about a month and a half, 2 months apart. The first series started this spring, right around April through May. The second one we're in right now as we speak. In fact, the Afghanistan debacle happened almost precisely as it hit. It's literally here. Let me come back and I'll give you the exact dates because I have it right here. The opposition of Neptune happened right about the 19th or 20th of August, and I think it's pretty safe to say that's right when this whole debacle really started happening, right around the 20th. Yes. And the Neptune opposition, square Mars, the Neptune square Mars, happens on September 29th. So plain English on all this might be when we really see more confusion and delusion, particularly from the end of September forward. This aspect series ends right between January 29th and February 28th, except then we begin the Pluto return. And the United States, boy. Pluto takes about 240 years to 248 years, it's not exact, to return to its natal positions in a birth chart. Of course, nobody lives that long. But the country sure has, and I can tell you never before has the United States experienced an energy like this. And I can tell you from astrology that Pluto is death and rebirth. It can also mean the phoenix rising out of the ashes, or it means total destruction. The last time we had these aspects with Neptune was right precisely before the Civil War. And it's interesting, we hear a lot of politicians right now in the District of Criminals, also known as D.C., saying that there is a lot of rhetoric about this is the greatest atrocity since the Civil War. And I'm like, well, isn't that an interesting statement? Because that was the last time we had these astrological aspects.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So by the time this is done, we either will have a country that is totally transformed into something else with an American flag on it. It might be communism with an American flag on it, or it will end up the phoenix rising out of the ashes and be reclaimed. And who knows, maybe we can even dust off that Constitution and start abiding by it, which would be nice, wouldn't it?
Would be.
That would be fabulous, wouldn't it? My goodness.
I guess.
Now, all of this confusion, delusion, I mean, we pretty much know it always comes from the current political party. And are you seeing it coming from any other place? I mean, I know it's an overall aura that we're under right
I don't
now.
believe it's even coming from them. I think at the top of the pyramid, I think George Carlin, the comedian, was right on. Forget the politicians. They're all actors on the stage. The producers of this picture show we're going through really are at the top of the pyramid, printing the money. Thomas Jefferson said it the best. He said, if anyone ever gets the power to print our money, they will be more dangerous than any standing army ever could be. And I don't think he knows how right he was. Or we know how right he was, because that's exactly what Woodrow Wilson handed over when the so-called Federal Reserve, which isn't any more federal than Federal Express, was granted power. And I think when you look at what just happened, you know, a lot of people say, oh, the politicians sold out, they did this, they did that. Well, think about it. If someone walked up to you and you were in a high position and said, well, here's $500 million sitting in a Swiss bank account. You can live your life in opulence. And if you don't do that, we'll kill your kids. And we'll kill them sooner or later, you know. You won't know when. But so the amount of financial coercion and power at the top of the pyramid, I think the real war and the real Civil War this time is not going on as much on the streets as it is at a very high level. Whoever ends up with the keys to the kingdom to print our money, which right now they certainly hold, and also who has control and power of the secret weaponry that we have, because I really believe China would march right in here if they could. The only reason they don't is because they can't. There's weaponry that I think the U.S. military, or you could say the secret military, has that is exceedingly powerful, like stuff we've never heard of. And I really think that's where the war is going on, and the politicians are just down here dancing to the money like they always do.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Wow.
We were talking today.
This is a global effort to take over everything. They want global. It's a war between the globalists and the nationalists, in my opinion.
Yeah, it is. It is. And we were talking today about our military here in the United States and wondering if they're going to do anything to change this regime out, to possibly replace this president and vice president. I mean, there was talk about that last year, and then nothing seemed to happen. So what do you think about that?
Well, I think it's pretty sad when a guy who sells pillows has to do the work of the FBI, the Department of Justice, and the NSA and Homeland Security.
Agree.
Yeah, that's a joke right there. But I think the military itself probably can't do this. I think this is going on a much higher level. I really do. I think, at least that's what I've heard, and that's what I would surmise by the astrology. We're in the twilight zone right now, literally. If you wanted to say, okay, summarize all this, what does this really mean, this astrology? What's the astrology saying? I would say we're not going to know how this lands until probably next January through April, somewhere in that area. This is when the really intense aspects happen. Another thing I was calculating, and one of my favorite types of astrology is a branch of Vedic astrology known as Nadi. It's spelled Naadi. It's very ancient. Many people may have heard of the Nadi palm leaves. And I love that astrology because it really proves that we are not our checking accounts, we're not our clothes, our cars, and our homes, even though they're all important to us, but we're really spiritual beings having a physical experience. And one of the coolest things about Nadi astrology is something known as its progressions. Well, I did that for the United States, and again, the United States is about 246 years old as we speak, and what's fascinating is the progressions of Saturn particularly. And when I looked at this, my eyes kind of popped out. I went, whoa, we are at a very strange energy known as, the United States is technically 245 years old, 1 month and 17 days, technically. So at the 246th year, Saturn progresses over what we call the South Node, which in Vedic astrology is called Ketu. Plain English on that one, that's when death and rebirth clearly happens. You and I and everyone else drawing breath will exit the body known as death, and the ancient Nadi astrologers called it liberation of karma. And that always happens when the South Node of the moon, which is also known as the tail of the dragon called Ketu, meets Saturn, and the North Node meets Jupiter by either progression or transit or a combination thereof. And Mars needs to be mixed in. And every human being will hit that. I just had a younger brother died at 60. He didn't even make 61. He was, just died 3 days ago. And every single person I've ever seen. Yeah, it's very young, yeah. And every single person will exit the body. I mean, we are not these bodies, even though we're certainly very attached to them and they're very necessary to ambulate around down here anyhow. But when Saturn joins it, the other interesting thing is the United States also has something known as Sati Sate going on, which is a strange word that means the 7.5-year period during which Saturn transits the sign before, the sign over, and the sign past, or the second sign from the moon. And again, I don't care what time the Declaration of Independence was technically signed, the moon was sitting 7 degrees in a sidereal chart. So it wouldn't have mattered. I mean, it would have been 14 hours either way. It's still in that sign. So no matter what, Saturn is transiting the United States moon, and it's transiting the South Node, tail of the dragon, known as Ketu. So the astrology is mirroring exactly where we're at. We're in the freaking twilight zone, and we really are. And I think we're not going to know how this all lands until next year sometime. It may be well into next year. But I think, and I've been saying this for a while, I think ultimately hell's coming to breakfast. And I hope I'm wrong, because I don't like to make dire or heavy predictions. But this is clearly a time when the United States gets its metals tested. And again, I think I'm rightly naming the District of Criminals instead of the District of Columbia, because they're all bought and paid for.
They are. Unfortunate, but true.
It is true.
They're all coin operated.
That's so
sad. Carlin said it right. He said, how much soft money will I take for my core values? That's what it takes to be a politician. For the most part. There are some very good ones, but there are a lot of them, particularly in key positions. I mean, they've been coerced or they've sold their souls, Maybe both.
Definitely. Yeah. Definitely. And so there's a lot to be considered here, because some of what has been bandied about is China invading us. And you're saying that they can't because we have superior weaponry.
Not unless they let them. No, I think from what I've heard, I think we've got stuff that would erase them in about 3 seconds. They've got, I heard, in fact, not too far from you, Patricia, over there, and I shouldn't be saying this on air, but I actually, I will. I had a couple clients who are engineers who told me, they're both retired, so I guess I can say this. Everyone thinks Reagan's Star Wars never got finished. That's the lore we hear. But if you drive down the 10 freeway into Phoenix, you'll notice this gigantic plume of light that's to the south of the 10 as you're coming in. It's known as the Palo Verde Nuclear Power Plant. And I don't know what the heck they're doing, but I've heard that there are many more silos over there, nuclear silos, than they say they have. And there's literally billions of gallons in underground aquifers running through cooling that place. And it is apparently one of the most powerful power stations on the planet. And they're doing something with all that, I can tell you that. So they could turn off the windmills in Palm Springs if they wanted to, because that one's certainly being used for something. And I know there's stuff going on up in Alaska and other places that they have this tremendous amount. Particle beam weapons, we've heard of HARP and other things. So God only knows what they really got. And they're sure not going to tell me or you or anyone else. But I think they're holding a pretty big stick. So if they let them in here, it would be only for the New World Order purpose. It'd be because they wanted it to happen or let it happen.
Right.
Jeff, do you think the people that we have in place right now in Washington, some of them seem to really be working their butts off to make everything come to fruition in a positive way, but there seems to be so much greed and hateness ongoing there that they can't work together. And it starts, I think, with
that's for sure. I think if they pass that New Deal, they want that stimulus. We're going to have communism with an American flag on it. They'll rush it right in. And the problem is, this is what the astrology indicates. It looks like we're in the twilight zone. Well, I don't think, because the internet's full of all kinds of people saying certain things, and I don't want to mention who. Some of them, I think, have a very honest approach of what they're portraying, but I don't think we're going to know how this is going to land until it happens. There's probably 50 scenarios that could happen and 50 ways it could happen. But I really think the trigger points are between now and September 29th. That's a big one. So we could really see some big stuff coming through this October. The largest one, though, is the one upcoming between January 28th and March 1st, with the Pluto return right dead on at about February 18th, February 19th. So we're going to have a really interesting new year. That would seem to me where the swords might really clash right about there. And, hopefully something will happen sooner, but I would say that that's astrologically really a trigger point.
And now, are you seeing that as a trigger point where people might finally say enough and do something about it, or are you saying it's a trigger point?
I don't think that people could do anything directly. I really don't.
No, I don't either.
I really don't. This is way beyond that. This is at a level where you've got systems in place. The entire judicial, the entire investigative, the entire political, the entire law enforcement system is bought and paid for by the owners at the top of the pyramid. So that'd be like going and arguing with the police officers for giving you a police ticket for going 2 miles an hour over when, some judge at the top of the pyramid said, you're going to ticket everybody for going 2 miles an hour over. So you can't go after the foot soldiers on the street, or you could say what the politicians are in Washington. They're in my opinion, they make laws and all that, but they're not who's running this place. I think Rothschild said it best. He says, you give me control of the money, and I don't care who's running this place. He says,
That's
I don't care who makes
fact,
the laws.
hasn't it?
So who's at the top? Who are these people?
What's that?
Who is at the top?
Yeah, well, that's the guys who print the money, the guys who control it. Think about this. How can a politician stand in front of a microphone and a podium and say we're going to allocate trillions? Who do you know that you could go to get a loan for trillions of dollars? This is a top-down thing. These people, they control this place. I don't think Harlan realizes how accurate he was. Every time I go by his office in San Vicente, George's office was there, and I always look up at where his office used to be, and I said, George, we miss you. I mean, what would he be saying now? I mean, he'd be saying, see, I told you so.
Right.
It's frightening.
It kind of is.
Absolutely frightening.
It kind of is. Yeah.
Now, when you say we're in the twilight zone, is that just because we're under this haze of confusion and insanity, or what creates this twilight zone?
What creates the twilight zone is the Neptune square Mars, Neptune opposition, Neptune aspects. This is exactly what was going on right in the late 1850s, early 1860s. It overlapped. Right before the Civil War finally broke out, it was the confusion and delusion that was totally going on. And, I think it's really great that slavery was stopped, but I heard the real motivation behind it, at least some historians propose that it was much more because they wanted to break the backs of the wealthy plantation owners and put them in the fold and tax them and implement the system. And it's good that slavery got abolished, but I think it was a little deeper motive than that.
Very interesting, Jeff. Very interesting.
Yeah. There's a great article, if anybody ever wants to read about the 13th Amendment that a couple of detectives discovered. And they found that Thomas Jefferson, before he died, and some of the late founding fathers had actually passed a law, and they ratified it. It was called the 13th Amendment, which was different than the current 13th Amendment. It basically said that no barrister or attorney could ever hold public office. That would get rid of Washington tomorrow.
Boy, it would. I like it. I like it.
Yeah. Well, the Bar Association isn't even in the United States. It's sitting in England.
Really?
And what's fascinating about that, and what's fascinating about that, well, it's here, of course, but I mean, it's really all centered out of, it really came up out of England. And the barristers were considered to be any legal attorney, any attorney could not hold high office in the United States. Well, that was totally scuttled. And there might be some truth to the War of 1812, I think it was, or 1820, when they burned the White House that came in from Canada. And you can read about it on the internet. It's called the Lost 13th Amendment. And they printed like 10,000 copies. And this is like in the early 1800s. That took a lot to do that back then. And Virginia actually ratified it. But then when the Civil War broke out, they reinstituted the 13th Amendment without that. And I'm glad they got rid of slavery. I mean, it's horrible. Nobody should be a slave of any color. And but they omitted the barristers being out. And I think it's safe to say the American legal system is the finest system money can buy.
It's the buying part that bothers me. Yeah, God.
Really. Jeff, we've talked before about the extraterrestrial element, and obviously the Pentagon report was just a big bunch of nothing, and so they're still committed to hiding the truth from us. They admitted only what we already know because everybody has a cell phone and can take videos and pictures of UFOs in the sky. So, yeah, duh. But what do you see happening with that? Anything?
I don't know. Again, that kind of goes with the Twilight Zone aspect. There may be more going on. You know, when you say the owners at the top of the pyramid, you ask the right question. Who really are these guys?
Yeah, that's for sure.
I mean, I've seen things myself that I find highly questionable with certain individuals. There was one guy I was studying with years ago. I actually saw his hand shapeshift into a claw. And I thought, okay, that's my imagination. Maybe I'm drinking too strong a coffee here. Except he saw that I saw it, and he put his hand under the table. And he acted very sheepish after that. So that was like, whoa, okay, I am not imagining this. And he got really kind of strange after that. And I've seen things, of course, Hollywood's been known to be a place of very interesting energies. And I don't frequent Hollywood too much at all. I don't like it. We're way north of there, up here by Thousand Oaks and Calabasas. We're actually right outside of. We're in West Hills, but I can tell you, it's been long known that many people in higher places. I mean, look at Lieutenant Philip Corso's work. Where they had shown so much of that stuff going on. It may be a lot more like Men in Black than we know. So something is certainly going on this planet that is very eerie sometimes. And it kind of fits the fallen angel story in the Bible, that there is the demonic stuff going on. There is a lot of black magic and Satanism and all that. Belial's in there too. And there may be what we call extraterrestrials, some of these very fallen spirits. There's certainly some things going on, and I think the money at the top of the pyramid is inextricably linked to this. I really do. One way or another, it's linked.
Yeah, it does make sense, and we don't know who's at the top. I mean, nobody's going to reveal themselves, and it could be reptilians or something like that is controlling this. There's also
people sure get very nervous.
Mm-hmm.
They get really nervous at the top of the pyramid. Something's making them all dance in Hollywood, and I mean, if you look at this small group like Blackburn and Vanguard, they own 90% of all the Fortune 500 companies. They own them all, and it's all owned and controlled. The food processing, the energy, all the sectors are controlled by a very small, tight group of upper families. Very tight. These are the owners.
Wow.
Yeah.
So with the way things are going these days, and supposedly we'll call it the health issue with our present president, do you think that they're going to allow him to continue?
I didn't see him staying in office much more than a year.
Yeah.
And then they'll have Harris in there.
Oh, dear God.
It may be possible if something's going to burn this insanity down, which if it doesn't, I can tell you we're going to have communism with a flag on it, American flag on it. As long as they can keep us believing, we're completely free. That's how it works. They took an SS officer during the Nuremberg trials, and they asked him, they said, how did you possibly get the German people to do what they did? And the guy, I forget the guy's name, but it's on the internet somewhere. He said, if you just keep people in fear, you can get them to do anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good Lord.
That's true.
Yeah.
Now, what about this election fraud and how this is being revealed by Mike Lindell and other people. What about that? Is there any chance that can bring down the current regime?
It could. I really think, from what I can see in the charts, the only way, because you could say, who's the company? What is the Dominion? They are busy deleting machines as we speak. They're running around. Of course, they do it under the guise we're updating the machines. I think the network of covering the tracks here is so elaborate that they're going to really, the problem they're going to have is, unless it's a military insurrection act where they can actually unequivocally prove foreign interference, I'm not seeing it, because the Supreme Court's not going to do anything. If they were going to, they would have already.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens. I think something like that, the best I can give you in astrology, would happen. Again, you've got a possible marker this fall, particularly right at the end of September into October. The thing I worry about is you're not dealing with nice people here. They'll nuke a city. They'll release a real pathogenic disease that does stack bodies to the ceiling instead of something that's a little more akin to the common flu. And they will, I don't think there's any end to what they'll do. They'll create another war. I mean, this whole thing in Afghanistan is Obama too. All they did was left the equipment there, and you watch, they'll backdoor fund them just like they did ISIS. I mean, are we supposed to believe that a bunch of guys running around on horses are going to abscond with billions of dollars of sophisticated equipment and keep it running? I can't even keep my truck running for a month and a half without an oil filter. Where are they going to get it?
Yeah.
So they're getting some help, just like ISIS was magically able to do all this crazy stuff with our equipment and keep it running. You don't go to the local meat market and get 50 caliber howitzer shells or whatever other things they're using. This takes sophisticated, Yeah, I mean, I don't buy this. It's very transparent, and we only know what the news tells us and what somebody guesses at on the internet. That's why I say it's the twilight zone. Until this really drops, we're not going to know, because I don't think even the powers at the top of the pyramid know. They just know where they're going. Their goal is, I think, to get global dominance, and they've kind of won round one already.
Yeah, that's
unfortunate. They really have.
Very unfortunate. Yeah. It's so frustrating. Especially, PK and I, we've been sitting back watching all of this with our eyes wide open, and then we've been horrified by people who don't get it, who don't see the agenda, who really think the government gives a crap about your health. They don't. That has nothing to do with why they want you to take that vaccine. So there's so much manipulation, there's so much brainwashing. It's the only thing I can think of that causes people to not want to see what's really happening, what the agenda truly is.
Well, I hope I'm wrong about this, but I bet Newsom, I also affectionately call him Gruesome, he's going to slip out of this situation. I think they're going to use the same voting systems and the mail-in, and he'll magically slip by with 3 extra votes and stay in. And then you'll see the hammer drop in California. You won't be able to get a roll of toilet paper without your vaccination card strapped to your forehead,
That's awful.
That's
I really hope that does
not
happen.
So sad.
Yeah. Because he is really, there's no words for what he's done and what he continues to do. Well, we have a caller on the phone. Let me Jeff, take this question here. This is from someone in 440 area code, so let me bring them on. Hi, you're live on the air. Do you have a question for Jeff?
Oh, yes. Are you all, I'm a first-time caller. Thank you for taking my call. Are you just talking about how the astrology is affecting these current worldwide events, or are you going to be doing any type of reading?
Well,
individual
that's
readings?
exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah. What I'm doing is looking at the United States chart and looking at the aspects to it. And it really looks, because if the United States falls, I think it's going to affect the entire world. Look at Australia, look at Europe, Greece.
Yeah.
I've got clients all over the world who are telling me how it's way worse there than it is here.
Yeah,
way
definitely.
Worse. They're really hammering on people, and it's really kind of brutal. I think the United States has been a target for these globalists for a long time, and if they can completely negate things, and again, it's all being done legally. These congressmen get stacks of paper that were created by these exceedingly expensive law firms, and then they end up having to sign them because there's no way you could ever read it and understand it. And I think it's been a coercion from the top down for a long time. Eisenhower warned about this. Patricia, you probably remember this better than I, but in the late 50s, early 60s, he specifically warned about this. And it's exactly what's happening. Exactly.
And if you want a private reading with Jeff, how would people get a hold of you? What's the best way?
The best way is Jeff at jeffharman.com. That's HARMAN.com, Jeff at jeffharman.com. But yeah, I think it's going to affect us all individually. I guess the way I could answer that question is when I look at the charts, if there was ever a time that they're going to really try and topple this country, it's now. And the scary part is they're going to do it with most people not even understanding that they did it.
That's the scary part.
That is.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for your call.
All right.
With the people that are ongoing right now, with everything that's taking place in Washington, do all of them actually feel that what they're doing is righteous, that they can't get together? If they could at least try to work together, but it's so divided. You're either Republican or you're Democrat, and it's like a slice in the middle, and it isn't what it's all about.
No. Well, I don't know what they all feel, because I think that everyone's individual, and you kind of hear that on the news. It's just a system that is so manipulated or easily manipulated. When you think about it, it all ends up at either a vote or the Supreme Court. And it's very easy. It all comes down to one thing, money, because nobody's going to do anything. Because where are these guys getting $3.5 trillion? Here's a little math exercise for people. I did this, and I still can't believe it. At 40 years old, you're just a little over 1 billion seconds old. At 80, you're just a little over 2 billion seconds old. Guess how long 1 trillion seconds is? You take 1 trillion, and it's 60 seconds per minute, and then multiply that times 60 is an hour, times that times 24, and then 365. 1 trillion seconds, believe it or not, is 11,700 and something odd years. It's just under 11,780. Yeah, it's stunning. It's like, so think about that. Who has callable collateral? Who has the authority to issue trillions of dollars? Now, granted, people could say, well, there's the assets of the countries and the assets of the banks and all that stuff, which is true. But who is these people they're going to get trillions and trillions of dollars? Now, it's nice that they can, because we would dry up and blow away financially if somebody wasn't shoveling money into the furnace. But it's very interesting. Who are these people? Who are they? No one knows who they are. It's a very mysterious thing. And the politicians all dance to that money. Look at Michael Pence. He just bought a huge, multi-million-dollar mansion on $150,000 a year vice president salary. How much
amazing,
money
isn't it?
Take for my Corvette? So, and they all end up filthy rich, every one of them. They all end up multi-millionaires. Look at Feinstein. Look at so many of them.
Yes. Well, look at
what about the Supreme Court? You think they've been bought off? They've all been bought off, Jeff?
I don't know. The best I can tell you is if they're not bought off, there's certainly some serious coercion going on, because when you look at the aspects right now, I mean, you're not dealing, it's one thing to deal with the mob. It's another thing to deal with people who own the entire, political and enforcement systems. I mean, you're dealing with, I think these people have layers and layers of power around them at the top, probably more so than any president. And that's why whoever is trying to work on this, I don't know that it'll ever get done in any negotiable way. I think this is like a war. That's what I get from the astrology. You're literally looking at a be killed situation, and I'm not talking about in the streets. I'm talking about at the top of the pyramid, whoever these real, true warring factions are, which is the globalists and the nationalists. And, it's very interesting. It's very mysterious, and it's very high level, and it ain't going on in Washington. Washington dances to the result. They're certainly passed the laws and all that stuff, but I think we're going to have to wait and see. I'll say this though. I will say this. I keep getting, and let me just double check that I'm right, that this may turn out a lot better than we think, even though it doesn't look like it right now. It looks like it ultimately will work out better. And I know I don't want to mention any shows. There's a lot of shows that make it sound like the Patriots are going to go riding into Washington any second, take it all back any second. I wish that were true, but it looks like eventually something on that kind of order could happen. It looks more positive in the end. It's just going to be really frustrating getting there. Because I got a 20-year-old son, and I can tell you I would love him to grow up like we grew up.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's sad because they have so little to look forward to with the debt that they're going to incur with all this garbage that they're throwing at us from Washington.
Well, and losing all of their rights. That's what's going to happen.
Yeah. Well, that's it. See, the freedom of speech
everything.
thing, and well, they're shipping people in here left and right. This administration's actually shipping people in here left and right, and that's very mysterious. I think there's a lot of very questionable things that are going on right now in secret that are positioning for trouble and riots should anything happen. I don't see this ending in any other simple way other than a military like insurrection or something on that order. I've heard that if you guys ever saw that movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger back in the 90s, it was called Eraser, and they were showing how they could see inside of houses. I've heard they've got that technology. It's actually called magnetic spectrometry of some type, and they can actually see anything in anyone's houses, anybody walking down the street, from satellites and from scanning from helicopters. That's how they can bring politicians in and not get them shot anymore. You look at the rallies and stuff like that. That's how that works, is they're literally able to scan anybody around. They can see who's loading something or who's carrying something or whatever. And, I know that technology's there, and we have some really serious stuff. And let's hope that if something happens, that they're going to use something like that to keep it from getting crazy on the streets. But I think this fight's going on much higher than on the streets. I don't think Billy Joe Bob with his pickup truck and his shotgun are going to do anything. I think that's not going anywhere.
Nope. That would have been in the good old days.
Yeah, that was in the good old days. We ain't there no more.
Not at all. Yeah, this is so troubling. And, I don't even know what to ask next. There's so much to think about.
Well,
what about
I keep
money?
thinking it's going to turn out better than we think. This is going to be a real interesting thing that we just got to hold our space, keep positive, live our lives, and really pray that this thing ends up in a place. Because I think who's ever going to turn the screws to make this one happen are going to be way beyond anything anyone on the streets is even going to know how to do.
Right.
It's just going on at a very high level.
Do you think we'll get a system?
Cryptocurrency, paper dollars? What do you see happening in the financial world that we live in?
I don't really know. I think this is going to be really tied to. I think they'd like to get a global currency or get something like that. That's where I think things are going to go if it keeps on the same track. I mean, we're already almost all digital when you think about it. How many people use cash anymore? Not a lot. I mean, a little bit, but not a lot. We pull up to the gas stations and we all use our debit cards and our credit cards. And I think the precious metals are probably going to go up. That's what it looks like. I think silver is going to go up. I think the cryptos, I don't think they can stop it. That's what I get. They cannot stop it. I think it's going to keep going.
I think they tried to slow it down, and that's what happened over the summer, but they can't control it. It's not under their control, which is a good thing.
I think they're going to do something like a blockchain coming up here. I hear that it's been in the wind for a long time that China and Russia have been buying gold like crazy, and apparently we're going into, and I've been hearing about this for 15 years now, that they want to go on an SDR system, special drawing rights, which is based upon natural resources versus, capabilities of the country industrially. And then they have a valuation of the currency on that. We're going to wait and see. This, I think something really big is going to be happening as this Pluto return happens next year. I really do. And that also fits with the Nadi astrology. It looks like we're going to find out where this country's at by this beginning of this coming year into spring. That's really where it's at. The Pluto hits 3 times. That's also July 4th of 2022 is exactly when the progressions of Saturn hit 246 years. That's really going to be, and the Saturn goes right over the moon of this country. This is where we're going to really find out, I think, where it plays. And people, I think if they stand up for their rights and they don't cave in, that's where I think the real strength comes in.
Yeah. Yeah, it is time for people to stand up. I mean, we're hearing about unions that are saying they're not going to mandate the vaccine, and they're not going to, in certain states, like I think South Dakota, they have banned vaccine passports and masks. Yeah. So, there are people in political positions that are also standing up to this and saying no, which is great. Of course, we have Governor DeSantis, who's fantastic down in Florida, and he's taken a strong stand for everybody's freedom. So we have some of that. What about Trump? What's going to happen with him? Is he going to be a factor in this?
Well, it's interesting because I only can say that when I looked at the chart, I think he really did win. And I think he went like a freight train through a wet paper bag. I think if the numbers could ever really be proven, he really did win unequivocally. The problem is the system was completely coerced and bought off. And anyway you slice it, Biden's in the White House right now. And getting a sitting president out of the White House is not easy. Though I would say this, that if there was ever a time I would expect, this is where the Twilight Zone phrase comes in. We are in the Twilight Zone. With these aspects, I mean, let's back up and think about how crazy was it back during the Civil War. You had the entire South, even though the West was, territories, you still had half the country. They were just divided. They left the Union. There was a war between the North and the South. And I think something on a magnitude like that, but at a very high level, is already going on. We're just not seeing it on the streets because there's some very weird stuff going on in many, many areas from what I've been hearing, and it would fit the astrology. We're going to have to wait it out and see who can make this thing change. Trump looks to me like this spring, he has some very powerful aspects coming back to his chart. He speaks like a guy who's ready to, jump back on Air Force One and fly into Washington. So he's certainly talking like someone who knows a lot more than he's revealing. He got booed a lot when he promoted the vaccine the other day.
Yeah, he did. Yep. Nobody
yes,
like
he did.
that.
And that shows you where a lot of people are at. But you got to remember, the owners control the media. They control. Did you know, it was really interesting, Dr. Shiva, how he had said that he had actually had a judge. He presented evidence that proved Facebook, Twitter are directly tied to government operatives. It's like directly tied. So there's more proof of. Oh yeah, totally. And I mean, like, they can pick up the phone and tell them what to do. And that's why I've been so silent. And I'm probably saying a lot more than I should on this show. I'll be hammered for it. I'll get hate mail now. But
no.
I can only tell you. Oh, I'm sure I will. You know, we're on the verge of communism. We really are.
I know, that's
just with
the
an
scary
American
part.
flag on it.
Yeah, we are. I mean, you can see it every day. I mean, it is so much to me like Nazi Germany in some ways, because they're encouraging people to turn worldwide, turn on your neighbors. You know, turn them in.
Yeah.
And
turn them in,
Australia, my God, that's where it's happening. It seems to be the worst.
They're taking kids away and inoculating them in they're doing it in schools right now here.
That's awful.
Mommy, my arm hurts. Well, why is that, son? Well, I don't know. They stuck this thing in my arm. Oh. So in other words, you got a vaccination without us knowing it. I've heard that several times.
Yeah, that's really horrible. I've also heard in California that people will be walking down the street, somebody will run up to them and say, "Are you vaccinated?" And if they hesitate at all, they get jabbed. And then somebody throws a certificate on the street in front of them. Yeah. I mean, this is not our country. This is communism.
Yeah, that one I haven't seen yet, but I hope they don't try it with me, because I'm not going to get too far. But
you're a big enough man, you can knock him down, Jeff.
Yeah. Well, the only thing I know is the last time I got vaccinated in the 60s, I had a really bad reaction. I almost broke my neck. I literally passed out on the sidewalk.
Oh,
and they picked me up and said, I got, I think I got like 3 or 4 vaccinations at once, and I have a real reaction to it. I can't do it. My immune system just I'm really adverse to it.
Yeah.
So I'm sure they're
hearing
a
lot of people
this right
that are
now,
and didn't even know it until they got the vaccine, and now they're crippled. So, there's a lot of people have had bad reactions. A lot of people have died from the vaccine, and it's not being reported, which is really, really
I've
terrible.
heard of guys in the military who've had it, and they're really having a rough time. I've also, on the flip side, I have heard of a lot of people who've gotten it, and they're just fine. They're just fine.
They're just
I
fine
know
now.
attorneys that have gotten it.
They're just fine now. But from what I understand about the vaccine, and think of it this way. If everybody took the vaccine and a lot of people died, then, the rest of the population is going to take it. But this is slow acting for some people. For other people, it's immediate. But for some people, the rest of them, I've heard from scientists and researchers, it's going to be slow acting. And these people may be dead within 2 years. So it's a horrible
Dr.
thought.
Zelenkoff is really good on that. You ever hear of him, Dr. Zelenkoff?
Yes.
He's really good. He said it probably best. There's germanium. I think it's germanium oxide in there, which is reactive to RF and 5G.
Wow.
It's nanotechnology.
It almost makes me wonder if this is a way for them to control everybody.
Geez, they wouldn't do that. Come on.
All right. Not
kidding.
that.
Okay.
They just care about our health. They don't want us to get sick. Sure.
Well, I mean, the modern world, when you think about it, the modern world is a wet dream for communists. So Hitler would have loved this, because everyone now is online. We are paying for the technology that literally you can hear everything in anyone's room. You could turn on, if you have the right satellite hardware and software, you can tap into anybody's phone at any time, see and hear anything they're saying, GPS track them, just like we do on Find Our Phones on iPhones. Your internet now, everyone's ordering online, especially since the pandemic, and we're an open book. We're fish in a barrel.
Yeah.
The more technology comes in, we're paying for it every month, and they have total access. People think they go online and, I'm on a secure browser. Okay.
Yeah, below.
Guess
right.
what? If you're going through a paid-for cable network, and you think you're on the dark web, every single thing you do through those routers in your home or your business is going to go through an account at one of the major carriers. You are an open book.
Right.
It used to be that
What
they
was
had
that movie
piles
some
of
years
paper
back,
on everyone.
Fahrenheit, what was it, Fahrenheit 79 or something? They showed something like this. It was, about 20 years ago?
Right. Yeah, it's like enemy
know.
of the state on steroids right now.
Yeah.
Literally.
You know, Jeff, one of the things we've heard from other people that have given predictions is that this year we will have some type of a huge paranormal experience. Is there anything that you see that is reflective of that in the charts?
Well, I know Cliff High, a lot of them are all saying that. I do get that there's something pretty major coming in this fall. You know, again, paranormal is kind of general. I certainly think we're seeing some really strange activity from the sun, the grand solar minimums, and there is evidence that we might be finally passing through what many have referred to as the dark rift in the sidereal zodiac. A lot of people say we're in the Aquarian age. I don't buy that. I really don't. Again, no one can prove or disprove it. That's the problem. There's no 7-Eleven out there that says you've entered Aquarius, and there's no mile markers. But I think the Hebrew calendar might be pretty accurate as to when that runs out, when that hits 6,000. That's about around the time. No one really knows. Even all the Vedic astrologers, they're all using what we call different ayanamshas. An ayanamsha is where do we take the solar system, which is rocketing around the central sun at just less than 500 million miles an hour, in reference to the central sun. And no one really knows. At best guesstimates, the two zodiacs are joined somewhere around the 2nd through 3rd century. Some even put it as far out as the 5th, and no one can agree. So, I'm not saying Cliff High's wrong. What I am saying is I don't believe we're in the Aquarian age from everything I can see in calculations and ayanamshas I'm using. I just don't buy it. And the world certainly doesn't seem like it's in the Aquarian age.
No, it doesn't feel like it.
In fact, if anything, it feels like we're going the other way. But we'll see what happens. I think there is a lot of divine protection on this planet that's far above. This is why all the doomsdayers are never exactly right. I remember you guys remember in 1977 or 78, a friend of mine owned a theater. And he says, Jeff, you got to come see this documentary with me. And so I go in and I sit there, and there's Orson Welles thundering the voice of Nostradamus. And it was called The Late Great Planet Earth. You guys might have heard of it. I think it was 78. And when I walked out of the theater, I said, oh, my God, we're not going to live past 1985 if this is true. Axis tip, 1,000 miles an hour winds, Nibiru, everything. You name it. Nuclear holocaust, it was all going to be over. We were done by 1985 to 1990 latest. Let me pinch myself. Yes, I'm still here. So I think this planet has too many souls on it to be destroyed, and I really believe God is far above, and none of us die anyhow. So why have fear? We're all going to die, as we call it. It's interesting.
Right, but it's more quality of life. It's like to look at what's going on around us now. There's so much stress, and certainly with this Afghanistan fiasco, it's really painful. So it's difficult. It's challenging, and that's the way I think a lot of people are seeing it right now. So it's great that we have divine protection somewhere. Let's hope that we can put our attention and intent on that divine protection to create a better world and to save our country. Because who wants to live in communism? I don't.
Nope, me neither.
No, I don't either.
No. Not at all. Not at all.
Mm-mm.
I think next year is going to really, by this fall, we're going to see some very powerful things. It is very possible we could see some of the moves people have been saying are going to happen ever since basically the January 6th event that are going to come through. We're going to see so much false flag opposition to it, though, when it happens. That's why when I look at a chart, I'm actually casting an interrogation chart. And it looks to me that this is going to be very challenging. There's going to be a lot of trouble. But in the end, it seems to look like it works out favorable.
Well, that would be great.
Yeah. My grandmother, who died at 102, said she thought the world was ending in the Great Depression, and then World War II broke out, and then the Korean War, and then Vietnam, and then this, and then that. She said during the Dust Bowl, she said literally, we thought the world was ending. And, you know, we're so traumatized by news now. I mean, they're flashing Afghanistan before our eyes constantly, and everyone's angry with good cause. And,
oh, yeah. They should be.
But I think they planned it this way. I think they wanted it this way.
They may, but I don't know if they – I don't know. I mean, here's the thought I have. I mean, obviously the agenda from the Biden-Harris administration, taking their orders from China or whomever, their plan is to destabilize the country and destabilize every other country that they can. So I don't know if they counted on so many people being so furious with them over this. Do you think they factored that in?
I personally think they don't care. I think they're taking their orders
You're probably
from
right
someone
about
very
that.
high. I don't think they care at all. Biden doesn't even act like he cares. He just walks away.
Oh,
I know. It's disgusting.
He just walks away. I think he's doing exactly what his handlers are telling him to do. That's what I think.
Yeah, he is.
I
is.
agree because
yep.
It's like he's not even there.
Less.
Yep.
But it really exposes them. I mean, that's the other side of this, is it exposes them to the place where people who weren't awake before are coming to the understanding that the government is using them and doesn't give a crap about them. So where they had any delusions of that before, Afghanistan is making them let go of that. And again, I'm not so sure that they factored any of that in terms of the backlash of that. Maybe there can't be one that's effective, I don't know. But there's certainly a change in consciousness now regarding Biden-Harris.
Well, I think they're going to see even more once they pass this bill that's this infrastructure bill. I think Afghanistan's going to seem like a walk in the park once they get their money on that one. Because, and if nothing stops it, that will be trouble. Because that's going to turn into a $3.5 trillion deal, I'll bet, down the line. And that is probably why we're going to see some powers way above the politicians oppose this, because they got children and grandchildren too.
Yeah.
And again, I don't think this is going to happen on the streets. I think this is going to happen at a very high level, and we may not even know when it's happening. This could be a combination of that and a little divine providence combined. And if the astrology's right, the crap's going to hit the fan somewhere right at the end of this year. It could even start as soon as October.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What about this? Some people have said that JFK Jr. is still alive. Were you ever able to take a look at that to see if he is or is not?
I have. I've actually had several people ask me, and you know, I try and keep out of any personal opinions on any of this stuff. I just look at the chart. The interesting thing is the chart, reports and rumors, there's something called interrogation astrology. A lot of people in the Western world know it as horary. I hate that word. It's a Latinized term. But prashna and interrogation are the ancient terms in India and in like Egyptian and medieval astrology. And it's divinational. You literally just cast a chart on reports and rumors. And if the angles are fixed, when I say angles, eastern horizon, the midheaven, the western horizon and where the sun is at midnight. If they're fixed, there's some truth to the rumor. And you also look at Mercury and the moon. I have to say, I've looked at 2 people who've asked that question, actually 3 people, and it's come back like there may be some truth to it. Now, I know they debunked it completely. They showed the seats on the bottom of the ocean floor and the plane and everything else. But the chart seems to indicate there may be some truth to it.
Cool.
And it could be that Fuchsia guy.
Yeah. What would be the purpose of him doing that or that happening to him?
I don't know. I don't have a snappy answer to that one.
Yeah.
All I can tell you is when people ask me questions, I tell you what the chart says. If I put my own opinion in there, not only do I get in trouble, but it's never as accurate. So I just try and be the messenger.
Well, but there was a lot going on
with,
JFK Jr. was going to run, for office against Hillary.
Yeah.
And so there was a lot of talk
Hillary
about that.
With a B.
Yeah.
That's
so,
sure.
You know what happens when you go up against what she wants. So apparently, and this is all rumor, but again, it was told to him that she was going to off him and his wife. So they decided to fake their deaths so they could live out their lives. But there has been a lot of talk about people have seen him, that he is coming back into the public eye. That would be very interesting if that happened.
Well, something that might be going on a lot more than we know. One of the interesting things is Tesla which Tesla would love it, because he proposed probably 95% of the things that the U.S. military and all the militaries are trying to do right now, this remote control and AI. He was proposing that nearly 100 years ago, or certainly 80 years ago. He was
amazing. He was amazing.
Oh, stunning. And people never give Tesla credit. Thomas Edison gets all this credit for the light bulb, which is great. But if it wasn't for Tesla, we wouldn't even have electricity running around like we do. He invented the transformer, which steps up and down all the power stations. He was a genius of the stuff he invented. And I think he invented a lot more than that. And back to what you're speaking about, it's believed that Trump's uncle, John Trump, had confiscated and analyzed a lot of this stuff along with the CIA and MIT and all that. I forget all the things. When Tesla dies, there's some very mysterious stuff going on there about time travel and timelines. And, we watch the mind control news. We listen to what they feed us, and we're all living in kind of confused fear in a lot of ways, and worry, and some of it's with good reason. But I think there's stuff going on that is much, much higher here, again, than, Nancy Neuroses and Chuck Schumer, the Joker, and the rest of those guys. That's what I call them. It's like a cast of characters from Batman. And I would tell you that it really
bat him in the head.
Yeah. Well, look at Mitch McConnell. He's married to a billionaire Chinese shipping magnate.
Yeah. That's true.
China's taking this place over without firing a shot. They don't need to.
Yeah.
Did you ever see the security agent with Biden? He looks like a ninja warrior, one of those Chinese,
Mm-hmm. He does. He does.
One of his son's friends.
I think the owners are manipulating China, too. I really do. I think China's playing ball, and they're using China's communism as a model for where they want to go, because the face recognition and the chips in the forehead, all that's where they want to go. They really do. And, if we don't keep our Constitution, we're going to be up the creek. What's interesting is the astrology shows that's what's on the table right now. And the astrology shows that war is being fought on a much different level right now as we speak. And there's some very weird stuff going on behind the scenes.
That, but I got to ask you, what do you mean? When you say weird stuff, we love weird. So what are you talking about that's weird going on?
I don't want to say too much because I just don't. But I can tell you there's all kinds of things going on that are not normal in the upper ranks of military, that are not normal in Washington right now. There's a lot of very strange behavior going on in certain high-level places. And I think that's why I say the astrology mirrors that. It is like the Twilight Zone. No one's going to be able to figure out where this is all going until these energies play themselves out. And I think calling it's going to be nearly impossible. The only thing I can do is say the trigger points are literally at the end of September. Look at the Afghanistan thing, happened right on the Neptune opposition Neptune. But a lot more than that's been happening, too, that we don't hear about. Look at all the Antifa stuff that's now starting to come back online up in Portland, Oregon, and in other cities. There's a lot of weird stuff going on behind the scenes. It's very secret that I think we've got positioning going on between two factions. And if this is right, by October, I would say the end of September into October, we're going to see some weird stuff happening. There may be some very coercive things. I hope Gruesome doesn't win, but I think they're probably going to manipulate the ballots. They already been working at it. We'll never see another honest election in this. They'll federalize the elections if this isn't stopped. That's why I think what's good is it's so insane. It's so crazy that we're going to see opposition forces that are very capable. This isn't going to be done by you and I, other than maybe our prayers and our wanting this and our karmic luck is maybe another thing that'll save us too, I think this is going to take I've heard there's very sophisticated people who know a lot of intelligence that say Biden's days are numbered, and they won't say much about it. But this isn't just a bunch of angry guys in coffee shops. These are like some really high-level military intelligence guys who know a lot, and they've got their access to a lot of things. So this is, again, stuff going on we're not going to hear about. It's just not going to be there. It's not going to be on the internet, people talking about it and all that, because it's too secret. And I think the astrology shows that's what's going on. And I don't fully understand all of it. I just hear rumors, and more importantly, I see the astrology and go, wow, this is pretty heavy duty. This is like Hitler. Back in the day, he had espionage going on in all these countries. Before he'd sack them, he'd go in and they'd figure out where everything was, all the water, all the power, everything. They knew where everything was. And I think the same thing on a different way is going on here, but there's also some very high-level stuff. We think of the Navy and the military and the Army and all that and Space Force. That's all good, but there's special ops stuff that's very tactical, very individual. And I think the owners at the top of the pyramid are surrounded by stuff that is pretty layered and secure. You're not going to get to these guys easy. And the people who know how, they aren't going to tell me or you or anyone else. We just got the trust that the astrology is right and something's going to really play itself out. And I think the collateral spillover, we could see some things on the streets. But we're going to have to wait and see where this one goes, because the United States it's literally got its neck in the guillotine. The question is will somebody pull it out before the end? Well, that looks like that's going to be the fate of that is going to be known by the aspects that start happening between January and March, because there's the two final aspects of Neptune, Mars, and the Pluto return. That's either the phoenix rising out of the ashes or the guillotine hits. We'll see what happens. I keep getting through interrogations that it's going to be dicey, but we're going to come out of this better than we think. And I hope that that's right, because we'll find out.
Gosh, we've been through enough. Well, and you said that Biden's days, these guys are saying Biden's days are numbered, which is nice to know. How are they going to get rid of them?
We'll see.
How, and astrologically, when you look at his chart.
I mean, when you look at anyone listening to us is probably going to dub us as wacko nuts because they're going to say, how can you say this? The news shows by, and I agree with them. We would sound like wacko nuts, except in these times with the astrology where it is, I would say wacko nuts might not be wrong. We'll see where it goes.
Because he's the perfect puppet for them. He just does whatever they say, bumbles along, and, follows their orders. So it's interesting that some people aren't happy with him that are higher up. Yep.
I don't think he cares. I really don't. I think he knows who he gets his orders from. Presidents don't
no, he doesn't care. No. But I'm just wondering how they're going to get rid of him. Because, like you said, it's hard to get rid of a sitting president. So I was just wondering if you looked at his chart, if there were any clues.
It's never happened in the history of this country. It's never happened.
But we have the 25th Amendment, right? So maybe that way?
Yeah, and then you're going to end up with Harris.
Ugh.
She'll be worse than him by far.
Oh, yeah.
That's for sure.
A cackling hyena, yeah. God. Who doesn't care about women caught in Afghanistan and all of this mess? Interesting, huh?
Yep. Yep.
Well,
this, again, is very interesting. You look at the amount of heroin and morphine that comes out of Afghanistan. Afghanistan has always been an interesting place. I think they're doing exactly what they want to do. They want to create dissension and chaos because once you get people in fear, dissension and chaos, they'll rally behind the incumbent. More trouble and chaos you can create, the more they like it. And the mind control media will just blow smoke up our rear ends and tell us, that's the way it is, folks. Even though they're acting like they're mad. I mean, let's face it, these groups own our media. They own Hollywood. They own everything. They own everything.
How many people do you think are at the top? I mean, are there a dozen of them?
No one really knows. There's all kinds of rumors. There's a council of 300. There's this, there's that. No one really knows. No one really knows. And I'm not so sure they like each other. I'm not so sure half of them are human, from what I see.
Yeah. Well, that's my thought, too, is they may not be.
Well.
God. What a situation we've got to pass on to our kids.
We're going to get on with our lives. As George rightly said, put this thing behind us and get on with our lives somewhere, I think, after 2023. I think this next year and a half is going to be the trials and tribulations of the future of this country. That's what the astrology says. It's either going to be kind of do or die.
Yeah. But, we're in a position, according to what you're sharing with us tonight, we're not really in any kind of a power position. We're just at the bottom of the barrel here.
We kind of are the fish in the barrel in a lot of ways.
Yeah. God. What a way to go.
I mean, what are you going to do?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, the only thing we can do is hold our space and keep the faith and pray that this comes out the way it is, and resist. I think people who resist things on a local school level and other levels individually also contribute a lot.
They do. I think you're absolutely right about that.
They stand up, the parents, and rights and all that, and it does come to a grassroots level in a lot of ways. But the only thing we can do is defend our position and pray that. Because they've already short-circuited so many things in the Constitution. That's what they keep hammering away. A lot of these false flag like shootings and things. It's very interesting how some of that comes about. They've been into mind control and all kinds of things for a long, long time. The fact that Trump has not had his brain splattered on the back wall is an enigma to me, because if there was one guy they wanted to kill, it would be him. And the fact that he has not been taken out, and I heard there's been many attempts on him, tells me that he's backed by some very high-level people. We'll never know their names. And I think that's where the war is going on, is up above there. And it's going to really come down to who wins. this might be very close to like a really good James Bond movie in the end. I really
Yeah,
hope
wow.
so. And that's what the astrology would show. And I'm not being evasive. I'm just saying I don't think anyone's going to know how this is going to play out until it does. And that's the nature of Neptune square Mars. It's the twilight zone. You got to see where the chips fall. Like throwing a grenade in the room. You don't know who's alive until everybody says, I'm still here. And that's kind of where it is.
My
Good
God.
grief.
Yeah. This is something else what we're living through, but I guess we all decided we wanted to be here for this, so here we are.
I think there's too many souls here for the place. That's why we're not going to see the mushroom clouds take the whole world out and all that. We might see tactical stuff, but I don't think we're going to ever. I don't think it's going to be allowed. I've heard too many extraterrestrials or angelic beings, call them what you will, have intervened. Guys in the military have said that.
Oh, yeah, we've had some of them on the show. I talked to one Marine.
They're doing research right now on this huge shelf off of Malibu. And there's this huge underground cavern that they are tracking stuff coming in and out of there that's amazingly fast. It's clear, almost close to instantaneous at some times. And they know what's going on. And they've known. I heard 40 years ago that they could take submarines under this coast almost all the way up into Salt Lake City.
Oh, for heaven's sakes.
The whole West Coast is honeycombed.
Oh.
Pretty wild stuff. There's probably so much stuff going on we would never, ever know.
No, we don't. I mean, we were talking about what happened in New Mexico with the observatory being shut down. Remember that?
Yeah.
And they left the sheriff out of the mix, and there were black helicopters everywhere. Nobody ever knew what happened. So
that's
there's another
There's
example.
Secret military ops that are going on that are far above the lower ranks. Not to demean the lower ranks in any way, but that's what I'm saying.
Gotcha.
This is where this kind of stuff's going to be happening. They're not going to. They're going to have allegiances to maybe their cause more than
Scary.
Yeah, I don't see the military itself. Yeah, it is kind of scary when you think about it.
Yeah, who's pulling all these strings? And it's not really
it
what we
comes
want,
down to
I
money.
would say. Yeah, it does, unfortunately.
It's who controls the printing
power
power of the money.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, Jeff, tell everybody
Yep.
again how they can get in touch with you if they want their own private reading.
The best way is Jeff at jeffharman.com. Jeff and then at jeffharman.com. Yeah, Camille does the scheduling. She's really good at it. What I like right now, what I've been doing a lot for people is I've had a lot of people moving. They're buying and selling real estate. And I do a lot of real estate elections. In other words, times to put your house in the market or times to buy and close, times to move. And people want to see their own cycles, too. Location astrology is astounding because you can really see where there's places you want to be and places you don't want to be. And it's specifically individual to you. And I think today with Zoom, it's so amazing. I mean, I remember 20 years ago, people would walk out of my office with a stack of paper and a cassette tape. Now you can sit in the comfort of your own home anywhere on the globe and make a movie in vivid color with, all of us talking and pointing, and you see all your charts and your maps and your cycles. It's really probably the most amazing time to do astrology.
That makes good sense.
Yes, it does. It does. It sounds very exciting what you're offering also, as people are thinking of moving and doing different changes in their lives. So everybody, that's how to get a hold of Jeff. He is the best, so don't hesitate to reach out to him. And Jeff, thank you so much for tonight. You've given us so much to think about.
Oh,
I'll be up all night.
Wonderful.
I'd say in the end, keep the faith, because this looks like it's going to turn out intense, but better than we think.
Oh, We hope.
Well, I hope I'm going to be around to see it.
Yeah. Really? Oh, goodness me. Well,
I think there's a lot of powerful forces going on that are much higher than we know. And I think we got to kind of leave it there, hold our space and not let them push us around too much, and keep the faith. The trigger points are coming. I mean, I've been saying for years, watch out for the Saturn-Pluto conjunction. That's exactly when COVID happened. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And these guys are smart. They know how to pull a lot of stuff.
Yeah. Well, we're going to get cut off in a minute. So good night, everybody. Okay. We will see you next week with another show. And until then, we'll see you on the Blue Highway. Good night.
Good night. Thanks, Jeff.
You bet. Bye.
Thanks for listening. Tune in next week for another radio adventure with Supernatural.